Every day, hundreds of thousands of patrolmen report for duty, armed with a badge and the latest in video technology. You are about to witness their never-before-seen footage, their stories, caught on tape. Now, on disorderly conduct, it's safe to say this suspect is a flight risk. An outraged relative of a shooting victim tries to play judge, jury, and jawbreaker. A suspect can't decide if he wants to run or ride. If you want to live, don't point one of these at police. And this gal thinks her buddy is too drunk to drive, so she makes her walk the line.
This is a good one.
Sobering, stunning, and shocking. Disorderly conduct is ready to roll. You never know what to expect on Southern California freeways, and today is no exception. The guy at the wheel of this blue car is suspected of stabbing a check-cashing clerk. He may think he's making a clean getaway, but a TV helicopter is hot on his trail. As he zooms up the freeway at more than 90 miles an hour, he nearly clips another vehicle. Responding highway patrol officers are still quite a distance back as he races up this grade north of Los Angeles. Suddenly, there's a bizarre sight that stuns even the most jaded pursuit aficionado. The driver overshoots the off-ramp and grabs some serious air. The chopper pilot moves in for a closer look, expecting the worst. But this guy is full of surprises. That's the driver hoofing it down the highway. The pilot and his cameraman are stunned by what they just witnessed. Police have yet to reach the scene, and the man appears to have escaped. But before long, the suspect is spotted calmly strolling down a man-made creek by an industrial complex. After surviving what could have been a fatal accident, the sight of the chopper seems to hardly faze the guy. Perhaps sensing that police are on the way, he picks up the pace and runs into a building. The helicopter crew directs authorities to the scene, and now officers are ready to close in. Finally, after a short standoff, the man is taken into custody. Later, the free-flying fugitive is brought down to earth when he's charged with robbery and assault. A handcuffed suspect in Titusville, Florida is knocked senseless with a vicious right. The man throwing the punch is the uncle of a shooting victim. The guy he hammered is accused of pulling the trigger. An officer holding the man also has his bell rung as the suspect's head slams into his. The uncle is arrested and led away while police use the threat of pepper spray to control the crowd of onlookers. Officers were called to the apartment complex after a man was shot during an altercation with the suspect. A young man police found inside the suspect's apartment is also detained. His only crime is being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The officer tends to agree with him. The suspect, however, is headed to jail for a long time. He confesses to the shooting and is also charged with attempted murder. The 285-pound man who cold-cocked the 140-pound suspect is charged with misdemeanor battery. North Olmsted, Ohio. Officers investigating an accident can't believe what they just saw. It's tough to see from that angle, so here it is again from a dashboard camera on the other side of the overpass. It's a horrific sight. A van suddenly careens off the interstate, nicks one police cruiser, then slams into the other one, totaling the car. In the first angle, it's easy to miss the van losing control at the far left of the frame. A closer look at the second angle shows a gold car changing lanes without checking his blind spot. The van quickly turns away. 2 adults and 3 children in the van were rushed to a nearby hospital after the crash and were fortunate to receive only minor injuries. The gold car never stopped. But the police hope this dashcam video will help them bring the suspect to justice. When disorderly conduct returns, a high-speed chase comes to a sudden and smashing stop. This isn't Hollywood, and that guy's no stuntman, just a suspect on the run. Stay with us on Disorderly Conduct. The Highway Patrol is in hot pursuit of 2 suspected burglars driving a reportedly stolen pickup truck just outside Los Angeles. The suspects allegedly stole a vehicle and the air compressor in the back. A news chopper captures all the action as the driver hits a busy intersection, only to discover this busy intersection hits back. An oncoming motorist collides with the pickup after it runs the light, but the suspect is unfazed. Hoping to stop this goose chase before it gets too wild, an officer executes a precision immobilization technique, the pit maneuver. But he spins out and keeps going. He picks up speed, racing down the surface streets. But it even gets more dangerous as he travels into a residential area. Fortune tips in favor of the police as the suburban streets lead the suspect to a dead end. But the desperate driver hops the curb and leads the stunned cruisers off-road. Fishtailing through the dirt as he barrels over the rough terrain. Now it's back onto the city streets as the suspects breathe new life into this high-speed pursuit. But positive signs emerge. A closer look from the chopper cam shows that the suspect's front tire is running out of air. The flat tire can't handle these high speeds and disintegrates. The pickup can only go so far, riding on a rim. Moments later, dust flies as the truck pulls off-road. It gets tangled in a web of cables, anchoring a telephone pole. At this point, even the suspects think the chase is over as the passenger bails. But the police, once again, witness the incredible. The truck gets loose. The passenger dives into the flatbed, and to everyone's amazement, the chase is back on. No fear factor here, as he then makes a gutsy move, climbing back into the cab while the ground flies by only a few feet away. It may seem like the suspects have fate on their side, but the pickup has only 3 good tires. The cops know the end is near. The pursuit continues back on the paved road, and the truck is just about done. A second pit maneuver sends the suspect's vehicle into the curb as the remains of the shredded flat tire fly off. The passenger bails again. Officers move in to bust the driver as 2 more give chase on foot through an obstacle course of homes. After scaling 3 walls and sprinting through backyards, the exhausted suspect collapses, and the cops finally get their man. Police believe the 3 suspects in this white van have committed an armed robbery and attempted a terrifying carjacking of a mother and her son. The woman calls 911.
And the kid jumped out and pulled the mask down over his face and came up to our window with a gun, and my son screeched into reverse and smashed up the front end of his car.
Now the officers are in hot pursuit on the streets of West Palm Beach, Florida.
Going towards Congress Avenue. You want me to spike him? Spike him. This guy's driving like a nut.
Suddenly, the driver spots the cops behind him and swerves completely onto the wrong side of the road.
In the wrong lane, he's driving northbound in the wrong lane now.
He barely misses an oncoming vehicle. Other patrol cars join the high-speed chase as the officers prepare to set up the spike strip.
Everybody, stay cool. I don't want too many people in this. We got 4 in it now.
Finally, the white van swerves dangerously back onto the right side of the road. A patrolman issues another terse warning.
Be very careful throwing these spikes. Also, stop the traffic if you can. Stop all the traffic.
The van rushes towards the intersection and awaiting spike strips. It then swerves again to the wrong side of the road, just missing a cop car.
West Palm, roll over, roll over. All right, you know to start the medics.
Just beyond camera range, the van flips over and skids down the road on its roof. Suddenly, the driver and passenger climb from the wreckage.
He's gonna bounce.
Officers realize there's one more suspect trapped inside. Cops rush up to the scene with their guns drawn. One cop keeps his gun trained on him, while a second busts out the back window. Officers run into the bushes looking for the 2 escapees, while the 3rd suspect is dragged from the wreckage. Officers surround the area and quickly round up the 2 young suspects who fled. It's a dangerous chase that ends in a horrible crash and the arrest of 3 suspects without any serious injuries. A number of guns are recovered from the van, and now the 3 suspects face multiple charges, including armed robbery. Officers race after an armed robbery suspect outside West Columbia, South Carolina. The fugitive has 2 passengers with him as he guns the stolen white Honda down Interstate 20. As he weaves in and out of traffic, his speedometer hits death-defying speeds. When he hits the interstate, troopers have to cut across lanes to keep up. As officers plan their next move, the suspect makes one of his own. The driver loses control and slams head-on into the base of the overpass. The crash brings the chase to a sudden end. The driver is fortunate to have survived, but he faces several felony charges. Next, on disorderly conduct, an officer reaches for the keys and is dragged down the highway. And get an insider's view when a stolen car gets hit with a pit. Coming right at you on disorderly conduct. A suspected car thief in Enid, Oklahoma is in cuffs, but not for long. While the deputy is busy searching the car, he slips his hands in front of him and jumps behind the wheel of the cruiser. The dash cam is rolling as the car thief backs down the road in the officer's cruiser. The deputy realizes what's going on and runs toward his patrol car. He opens fire. Bullets slam into the cruiser, but the driver keeps going. The officer takes up the chase in the only vehicle available, the stolen car. The car thief not only has the officer's cruiser, but his radio too. The deputy has no way to alert other officers about the stolen patrol car. He's on his own. Motorists who see the speeding cruiser and its flashing lights might think there's a trained officer at the wheel, but this renegade cop car is an absolute danger to anyone on the road. We've shown you a lot of pit maneuvers, but never from this unique perspective. The dash cam catches the action as the deputy pits his own cruiser with the stolen car. The car thief fared better than the dash cam in this spectacular crash. The man was uninjured and tried to run from the scene, but was quickly subdued by the deputy. The brazen car thief didn't even try to give the criminal justice system the slip. He pled guilty to unauthorized use of a vehicle, stealing an automobile, and attempting to escape. Mayfield Heights, Ohio. It's a night that two officers on patrol will never forget. They get a call that a local teen was throwing rocks, breaking the windows of people's houses. They race to the scene of the crime to check out the action. Only this isn't the kind of action they were expecting. A 19-year-old emerges out of the dark, out of his clothes, and apparently out of his mind. He runs straight at the patrol car, wielding a knife in his right hand. Seconds after the crazed youth hops the car, the suspect tries to stab the officer. You can hear shots fired off camera. The suspect's hit and is later taken to the hospital. Police report he was high on psychedelic drugs, but he was brought down by an officer who had to fire in self-defense. Police in Hudson Oaks, Texas, react instinctively after a passenger jumps behind the wheel of a stolen car. An officer tries to stop the man from driving off and is dragged 50 feet along the interstate. A woman who was traveling with the man looks on as the officer crumples to the pavement, and the suspect speeds away. The next day, police 3 states away in Alabama catch up with the stolen car. They track the suspect here by monitoring his cell phone usage.
Over your hands! Get your hands up! He's running!
Just as he did in Texas, the suspect bolts from the stop. By this time, there are plenty of cruisers on hand to take up the chase. The suspect is all over the road as he increases his speed. The white car blasts through the dark Alabama night, but can't shake the officers. The suspect slams on the brakes, going into a curve, and almost runs off the road. A couple of miles up the highway, his luck runs out. He overcorrects to keep from running into a ditch on the left and ends up crashing into one on the right. Officers rush toward the wreck. They pull the injured suspect up onto the road. An injured leg is the least of his worries right now.
You have to believe me. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. Even when I was going from you guys, I used my blinker and I slowed down on the curves. I don't want anyone to get hurt.
The Texas officers sustained leg and back injuries from being dragged down the interstate. Thanks to these Alabama lawmen, the suspect is headed back to Texas to face numerous felony counts, including aggravated assault on a police officer. Moments away on disorderly conduct. The guy on this late-night kitchen raid isn't looking for cold cuts, just cold cash. And a suspected car thief takes a pricey SUV for a spin. It's just around the corner on disorderly conduct. The open highway is the kind of place where it's easy to run, but hard to hide. A 20-year-old kid is learning that fact firsthand as he tries to escape from police in Midland County, Texas. He's up ahead in that dark pickup and doing some serious swerving. Cops are convinced the car is stolen, and they suspect the driver is high on crack cocaine. Officers from 3 different jurisdictions, including some in pickup trucks, join the high-speed pursuit. The troopers fail to slow him down when they try to box him in. The decision is made to throw out a spike strip to knock this guy out of commission.
Here they come.
The driver must know what's waiting for him because he suddenly swerves off the main highway. As he cuts across a dirt median and onto a side road, an officer takes aim at his tires. The bullet must have hit its mark because it isn't long before a tire starts to give out. And moments later, speeds drop to a more sane level. As the one-time high-speed pursuit slows to a snail's pace, the rubber hits the road, literally. Now from 2 dashcam views, we can see police close in for a pit maneuver.
Get out of the way, guys.
The pit goes precisely as planned. The driver quickly learns it's not a good idea to mess with Texas troopers. He'll be whisked off to jail and charged with felony evading arrest, auto burglary, and theft.
Good job, buddy.
This guy's wearing a lot of dark clothes for a hot summer night in Parma, Ohio, and looks a bit suspicious. The homeowner runs a charity bingo night, and that's the cash box on the counter next to his wallet. Previously, thousands of dollars have mysteriously disappeared from the box. But thanks to this video, the mystery appears to have been solved. The suspect craftily covers his fingers with his sleeves to avoid prints when opening the box. After seeing no cash this time, he's not so crafty picking up the wallet barehanded. He steals $100 and leaves the way he came in. Turns out, this guy is the ex-boyfriend of the homeowner's sister and gets charged with burglary and felony theft. He admits to taking the 100 caught on tape, but still claims it's someone else with a key to this house who opened the cash box, took the thousands, and slipped away. The driver of this black Chevy Yukon ignores commands to pull over for a minor traffic violation in Tampa, Florida. The SUV shoots through an intersection.
Okay, the vehicle is not stopping. Go ahead and have the units back off, and we'll keep visual.
Police decide to follow him from the air only. They don't want to provoke a high-speed chase over a minor infraction.
All large units, pull off. Let the helicopter do their thing. We're not chasing them. Helicopter's following them, and we're just hanging out in the area.
The chopper keeps the SUV in constant view as it rolls through the city streets and residential neighborhoods. With no police cruisers in sight, he tries to blend in with normal traffic. The SUV moves onto the interstate as police learn the Yukon might be stolen. The chopper tracks the vehicle's every move while police back at the station work to establish ownership. It doesn't take them long. The Yukon is hot. A patrol car resumes the ground pursuit when the Yukon leaves the interstate. The suspect spots the trailing cruiser and steps on the gas. The Yukon nearly spins out as it turns onto a road of orange groves. Another cruiser falls in behind the suspect. He keeps his distance, but again, the suspect speeds up. This time, the suspect loses control going into a curve. The reportedly stolen Yukon flips and rolls completely over, landing back on its wheels.
Road, they're failing.
The passenger surrenders quickly, but the driver races off, hoping to lose police in the orange grove. But once again, the chopper's got its eye on him.
Where'd you see him last?
Right in there by the tree stump.
A canine unit locates the suspect hiding under a tree and takes him into custody after a brief scuffle. The passenger is treated for injuries from the rollover and later released. Authorities charged the driver with grand theft auto, aggravated fleeing and eluding, resisting arrest, and reckless driving. Still to come on disorderly conduct. A stolen car tears down streets, then tears up lawns. And a man with an assault rifle pumps a gas station full of lead. There's more action ahead on disorderly conduct. Police in West Palm Beach, Florida, spot a reportedly stolen Nissan that was recently carjacked at gunpoint. The car was allegedly used in a number of armed robberies, and police really want to question the men inside. The driver pours on the gas as the chase speeds through city streets. When traffic slows them down, the suspects make a quick U-turn up and over the median. A door swings open, but no one bails as the car rams into one of the cruisers. The suspects are back on the road, running red lights and trying to put some distance between them and the law. The driver loses control during a sharp turn, and the car jumps a curb. A cruiser follows it onto the grass and tries to stop it there. But the car is able to churn its way through the grass and pops back onto the road. That jaunt through the grass took its toll, and this car chase is about to end. Now comes the foot race. Most of the officers spread out, while others search the stolen car. Shortly after a canine unit arrives, the suspects are taken into custody. Two suspects are arrested for grand theft auto, fleeing police, and armed robbery. In addition, the driver is charged with aggravated assault with a motor vehicle. Fort Worth, Texas. A time-lapse surveillance camera looks on as tensions between rival gang members boil over in a gas station parking lot. The man in the car at the right, a self-described member of a street gang, walks to the back of the car and opens his trunk. He is confronted by the man in the basketball jersey, and the two exchange words. In seconds, a small crowd has gathered around the car. That's when the conflict really escalates. A second man continues the argument. The driver responds by pulling a semi-automatic assault rifle from the trunk and fires away. Injuring the man in the back and the leg. A second camera inside the gas station store picks up the gunfire as bullets smash into the windows. The alleged shooter gets back in his car, but the incident is not over. The man in the jersey is back, this time aiming a pistol and firing into the car where the driver's girlfriend sits in the passenger seat. Inside the store, a call goes out to 911. By the time police arrive, the parking lot is quiet again. Everyone is gone. No one suffered life-threatening injuries in the incident, but both shooters were later found and arrested.
The abduction victim is a child. The child's probably in the car.
They are words that immediately put every officer on high alert.
Priority 1, Chuck.
A 3-year-old boy has been abducted, and his alleged kidnapper is a violent prison escapee.
Our biggest fear was the safety of that child. We were just terrified that something bad would happen.
Tampa Bay, Florida Police Sergeant Julie Dickey hears the call while traveling in an unmarked patrol unit. She knows that the suspect reportedly beat up his ex-girlfriend, then kidnapped her little son and stole her car. With Sergeant Jeff Dickey watching the suspect from the air, the squad cars on the ground lay back for the safety of the child. Meanwhile, Julie Dickey hopes to surprise the suspected kidnapper in her unmarked minivan. That's her blocking the man's path.
I pulled in front of him, pointed my gun at him, showed him my badge, and was mouthing to him to stop, and he was screaming at me to get out of the way.
Moments later, the man rams Sergeant Dickey's vehicle, and the pursuit is back on. Even though Jeff Dickey has just seen his wife's car get hit by the suspect, he keeps his cool.
Therefore, he's coming up to Nebraska Avenue.
As traffic builds, all involved know that at any moment this could turn tragic.
Everything is pointing to all bad.
Her words appear to be coming true as the suspected kidnapper takes more and more chances with the child at his side. Suddenly, he slams into an oncoming vehicle and takes off running. But he doesn't get far. He's quickly arrested and charged with child abduction, aggravated battery, and fleeing to elude. Coming your way on disorderly conduct. This high-speed chase comes to a crashing end when a suspected car thief literally hits the wall.
He's losing control. He's lost control. He's spinning. He's spinning.
And friends don't let friends drive when they're tipsy. Or at least they shouldn't.
Who got in? That one girl in the black dress with the platform shoes.
There's more disorderly conduct headed at you. It's not unusual to see a speeding Mercedes on a Southern California freeway, but this one endangers everyone and everything in its path. Two men are suspected of carjacking a convertible after robbing a jewelry store. A Los Angeles TV helicopter reporter follows the action from above.
He's now over in the left shoulder, now moving at about 80 miles an hour.
It isn't long before the driver takes the drama up a notch.
Suspect is again using the shoulder. Oh, had a collision with the pickup truck. So that's a felony now hit and run, as well as felony evasion and grand theft auto.
Moments later, it's interstate insanity.
Okay, shoulder, he's losing control. He's lost control. He's spinning. He's spinning. Smoke coming from the tires. He's lost. Okay, into the wall. Into the wall.
The Benz bangs into an innocent motorist, then spins to a smoky stop against a freeway wall.
This is terminated. This is now going to be a code 4. Officers stopping the pursuit, their weapons drawn, ordering the suspects out of the vehicle.
But at least this pair knows when to call it quits.
These characters are doing the right thing, finally, and giving themselves up. The pursuit was very reckless. These suspects are wanted for grand theft auto, felony evasion, assault with a deadly weapon, and leaving the scene of an accident. Dangerous situation on the streets.
An officer in Oklahoma City investigates the sound of screeching tires and finds this blue Chevy taking off.
White female driver, westbound on Hefner.
Briefly, he manages to pull alongside.
Can't figure out what she's doing. She's doing about 40 miles an hour westbound here. Pull over! Pull over!
Instead of pulling over, she takes off.
White female, dark brown hair. We've got the address.
The officer recognizes the lady and believes she'll lead him to her home eventually.
Well, she's getting off on Britain here. I don't know what she's doing. I got her next to her up on the bridge up there and told her to pull over. She just said, what? And kept going. Pretty much all over the road here.
His hunch is right. She's heading for home, and this officer knows he must move fast.
We get up there a little closer. I'll get ready to bail out and get her before she gets in there.
The woman threateningly holds up a black object. In a split second, she could lose her life. Thinking he's about to be shot, the officer pulls his gun.
Is that a gun? Put your hands down! No, it's not a gun. It's not a gun. It's not a gun. It's a car phone.
That second officer just prevented a horrible tragedy. They pepper spray her and take her down. Then she makes a shocking statement. She deliberately held that car phone so the officers would think it's a gun and shoot her.
Is that a gun? Put your hands down!
Maybe later she'll realize how lucky she is. Her life didn't end this night. A Friday night in Tampa, Florida can get pretty busy around New Year's Eve. A police chopper patrols the scene in case things get out of control. But the party scene is on the move.
Where'd she come from? Did she just go walk down the sidewalk? Yeah, she's just wearing her platform shoes.
A seemingly intoxicated woman runs into frame with her more sober friend in tow. They begin to jog towards their car for no apparent reason. But the more tipsy woman on the right couldn't be happier. The partiers arrive at their destination and discover they have a dilemma.
We'll see if we're good enough to drive. Oh, God, I'm taping this too. It's a good one.
The pilots can't believe their eyes. The more sober woman is forcing her friend to walk a straight line to prove she can safely drive the car.
Am I good enough to drive or what? Oh my gosh, that is a guilty written all over. I guess the other girl's trying to convince her not to drive.
In the end, the woman passes her friend's sobriety test.
Who got in? That one girl in the black dress with the platform shoes. The one that was walking the line? Yeah.
However, the cops aren't as convinced. They decide to keep an eye on the ladies as they drive away.
Yeah, we'll see how she drives first.
The field sobriety test turned out to be a good idea. Luckily, the women get home safe and sound.
Cherry Sunday.